Hey everyone, welcome back to Immigration News today. If you've been scrolling through social media lately and seen headlines screaming about mass arrests, Christmas crackdowns, and thousands of criminals being deported, I know your heart might be racing right now. Maybe you're here legally on a visa, maybe you're a permanent resident, or maybe you have family members whose status isn't perfect, and you're wondering if you should be worried. Take a deep breath. I'm here to walk you through exactly what's happening, separate the facts from the fear, and give you the real information you need to protect yourself and your loved ones. No panic, no rumors, just the truth. Let's dive in. So let's talk about what's actually going on. The headline that's been making rounds talks about 17,500 criminal illegals being arrested as part of what some are calling Trump's Christmas crackdown. Now, first things first, we need to understand what this actually means, where these numbers come from, and most importantly, what this means for you if you're an immigrant living in the United States legally, or if you have concerns about your immigration status. The reality is that immigration enforcement in the United States is not something new. It didn't start in December 2024, and it certainly didn't start with any one administration. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, which you probably know as ICE, has been conducting enforcement operations for decades. Every single administration, whether Democrat or Republican, has prioritized the removal of individuals who have committed serious crimes and who are in the country without legal authorization. This is not a new policy. This is standard enforcement that has been happening year after year. Now, when we see numbers like 17,500 arrests, we need to ask some very important questions. What time period are we talking about? Are these arrests from 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, or an entire year? Are these new arrests, or are these cumulative numbers that include people who were already in detention? And most critically, who exactly is being counted in these numbers? The term criminal illegals is extremely broad and can be misleading. In immigration enforcement statistics, this category typically includes anyone who entered the country without authorization and who has any kind of criminal record, which could range from serious violent crimes all the way down to minor traffic violations or old misdemeanors from years ago. Let me be very clear about something that causes a lot of confusion and fear in immigrant communities. If you are in the United States legally, if you have a valid visa, if you are a green card holder who has maintained your status and not committed any serious crimes, these enforcement operations are not targeting you. The priority for immigration enforcement has consistently been individuals who pose a threat to public safety. People who have committed serious criminal offenses, people who have outstanding deportation orders that they've been ignoring, and individuals who have repeatedly violated immigration laws. However, and this is important, we also know that during enforcement operations, ICE officers sometimes encounter individuals who are not the primary target, but who also lack legal status. This is what immigration attorneys call collateral arrests. For example, if officers go to a location looking for one specific person and they encounter other people who cannot prove legal status, those individuals may also be detained. This is one of the reasons why it's so crucial for everyone in your household to understand their rights and to have a plan in place. Let me talk about your rights, because this is something every single immigrant in the United States needs to know, regardless of your status. If immigration officers come to your home, you have the right to remain silent. You do not have to open the door unless they have a warrant signed by a judge. A warrant signed by a judge is a specific legal document, not just an administrative document from ICE. You have the right to ask to see this warrant, and they must slip it under the door or show it to you through a window. You have the right to speak to an attorney before answering any questions. You have the right to not sign any documents without speaking to a lawyer first. These are constitutional rights that apply to everyone on U.S. soil, regardless of immigration status. Now, I want to address something that creates enormous fear in communities, and that's the idea of random roundups or mass deportation forces going door to door in neighborhoods. Let's separate fact from fiction here. Immigration enforcement operations are targeted. They are intelligence-driven. ICE maintains databases of individuals who have deportation orders, criminal records, or who have been flagged for enforcement priorities. They are not randomly going through neighborhoods knocking on every door. They are not setting up checkpoints in residential areas to check everyone's papers. That is not how immigration enforcement works in the United States, and it would actually be illegal under current constitutional protections. What we are seeing right now is an increase in enforcement rhetoric and an increase in publicity around enforcement operations that have always been happening. Every administration announces enforcement results. Every administration releases statistics about arrests and deportations. The difference now is in the messaging, in the headlines, and in how this information is being amplified on social media and in news outlets. This creates a perception that something dramatically new is happening when in reality, the core enforcement activities have been consistent across administrations with variations in priority levels and resource allocation. Let me give you some context with actual numbers so you can understand the scale we're talking about. During the Obama administration, there were years when deportations exceeded 400,000 people annually. During the Trump administration from 2017 to 2020, deportations actually decreased compared to the Obama years, but there was a significant increase in interior enforcement arrests. During the Biden administration, we've seen fluctuations based on various factors including Title 42 policies at the border, changes in enforcement priorities, and court decisions. The point is that immigration enforcement is ongoing regardless of who is in the White House, and the numbers we're seeing reported right now are not historically unprecedented. So what does this mean for you practically? If you are in the United States on a valid visa, whether that's a work visa, a student visa, a tourist visa, or any other legal status, your priority should be maintaining that status. That means following all the rules of your visa category, not overstaying your authorized period, keeping your documents current, and reporting any required changes to the appropriate government agencies. If you're on a work visa, that means staying employed with your sponsoring employer or properly transferring your visa if you change jobs. If you're a student, that means maintaining full-time enrollment and making proper progress toward your degree. If you are a green card holder, a lawful permanent resident, you have strong protections, but they are not absolute. You can lose your green card if you commit certain crimes, if you abandon your residence in the United States by staying abroad for too long, or if you obtained your green card through fraud. This is why it's so important to understand that permanent residency, while much more secure than a visa, is not the same as citizenship. If you've had your green card for 5 years or 3 years if you're married to a U.S. citizen, and you meet the other requirements, applying for naturalization and becoming a U.S. citizen gives you the maximum protection under immigration law. Let me talk about something that doesn't get discussed enough, and that's the path forward for people who are currently undocumented or who have complicated immigration situations. First, I need to be honest with you. There is currently no general amnesty program, no broad pathway to legalization for undocumented immigrants in the United States. This is something that gets proposed in Congress regularly. Immigration reform bills come up for discussion, but as of right now, nothing has passed into law. However, that doesn't mean there are no options at all. Depending on your specific circumstances, there may be forms of relief available to you. Some people qualify for asylum or other humanitarian protection if they fear persecution in their home country. Some people may be eligible for U visas if they've been victims of certain crimes and cooperated with law enforcement. Some people may qualify for special programs based on their country of origin, like temporary protected status or certain deferred action programs. Some people who have been in the United States for many years have U.S. citizen children and can demonstrate that their removal would cause exceptional hardship, might qualify for cancellation of removal in immigration court. These are complex legal pathways that require consultation with a qualified immigration attorney who can evaluate your specific situation. And this brings me to something critically important. If you are worried about your immigration status, if you've received any kind of notice from immigration authorities, if you have a pending case, or if you're simply unsure about your options, you need to speak with a licensed immigration attorney. Not a notario, not someone who promises they can fix your papers for a fee without explaining the legal process, not your friend who helped their cousin with a case 5 years ago, but an actual licensed attorney who specializes in immigration law. There are many reputable immigration attorneys who offer free or low-cost consultations. There are nonprofit organizations that provide legal services to immigrants who cannot afford private attorneys. The American Immigration Lawyers Association maintains a directory of qualified immigration lawyers. Many cities have legal aid organizations that specialize in immigration cases. I cannot stress this enough. Do not fall victim to immigration fraud. Unfortunately, when there's fear in the community, there are people who take advantage of that fear. They promise results they cannot deliver. They charge thousands of dollars for applications that have no chance of success. They file frivolous cases that actually make your situation worse. They sometimes aren't even lawyers but pretend to be. If someone guarantees they can get you papers, if someone tells you not to worry about having a criminal record when you know you do, if someone asks you to lie on government forms, if someone charges you huge amounts of money up front without explaining exactly what they're filing and why, these are red flags. Legitimate immigration attorneys explain the law clearly, tell you honestly about your chances, explain all costs up front, and never ask you to lie on applications. Let's talk about what's likely to happen in the coming months, because I know many of you are planning your lives and need to understand the environment you're living in. Immigration enforcement will continue. That's a certainty. The level and focus of that enforcement may shift based on policy decisions, available resources, and court rulings. But enforcement operations targeting individuals with serious criminal records and outstanding deportation orders are not going away. What we don't know is whether there will be significant changes to legal immigration policies, whether new legislation will pass Congress, or whether there will be major shifts in how immigration law is interpreted and enforced. This is why staying informed through reliable sources is so important. The official U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services website, that's uscis.gov, is where you'll find accurate information about application processes, policy changes, and official announcements. The Immigration and Customs Enforcement website, ice.gov, provides information about enforcement priorities and operations. The Department of State website has information about visa processing at U.S. embassies and consulates abroad. These are your primary reliable sources, not social media posts, not viral videos, not rumors spreading through your community. I also want to address the emotional toll this environment takes on immigrant families. If you're living in fear, if you're afraid to go to work, afraid to take your kids to school, afraid to drive, afraid to seek medical care, that fear is real and it's valid. But I also want you to understand that millions of immigrants, including undocumented immigrants, continue living their lives, working, raising families, and contributing to their communities. The vast majority of people are not being arrested in their daily activities. The key is being informed, knowing your rights, having a plan for emergencies, and making wise decisions about risk. If you have children who are U.S. citizens but you are not, make sure you have a plan for who would care for them if something happened to you. Have that conversation with trusted family members or friends. Put it in writing if possible. Make sure your children's important documents, birth certificates, social security cards, medical records, are somewhere safe and accessible to the person who would care for them. Keep copies of your important documents, whatever status documents you have, in a safe place that a family member knows about. Have the phone number of an immigration attorney saved in your phone and shared with family members. These practical steps can make an enormous difference in an emergency. For those of you watching from other countries, considering whether to come to the United States, or worried about family members who are there, understand that the United States remains a nation of immigrants. Despite the heated political rhetoric, despite the enforcement operations, millions of people continue to immigrate legally to the United States every year through family sponsorship, employment visas, diversity lottery, refugee resettlement, and other programs. If you're going through a legal immigration process, continue following that process, respond to any requests from immigration authorities promptly, keep your documentation organized, and consult with an attorney if you have questions or concerns. One thing I want to emphasize as we wrap up here is the importance of community. Immigrant communities are strong because people support each other, share information, and help each other navigate challenges. But it's crucial that the information being shared is accurate. When you hear something alarming, before you share it with 10 other people, take a moment to verify it. Check official sources. Ask yourself if it makes logical sense. Consider whether it might be exaggerated or taken out of context. Misinformation spreads incredibly quickly in communities that are already anxious, and false information can cause people to make bad decisions or miss out on legitimate opportunities because they're operating on incorrect assumptions. The immigration system in the United States is complex. It's often frustrating, it moves slowly, and it can feel overwhelming. But it's also a system that has rules, procedures, and protections built into it. Courts review immigration cases. People have the right to appeal decisions. There are checks and balances that prevent the most extreme scenarios that you might see discussed in alarmist social media posts. Things do not change overnight. Major policy shifts go through processes. Courts weigh in. There are constitutional protections that apply. This doesn't mean the system is perfect or that there aren't real concerns, but it does mean that the situation is rarely as immediately catastrophic as the most alarming headlines suggest. As we come to the end of this video, I want to leave you with a few key takeaways. Immigration enforcement is ongoing, and has been for years. The numbers you see in headlines need context about time periods and who's actually being targeted. If you're in the country legally, maintain your status and know your rights. If your situation is complicated, talk to a qualified immigration attorney, not someone who makes promises that sound too good to be true. Stay informed through official government sources, not rumors. Take care of your mental health and your family's well-being in what I know is a stressful environment. And remember that knowledge is power. The more you understand about how the system actually works, the better equipped you are to navigate it. Thank you so much for watching Immigration News today. If you found this information helpful, please hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss our regular updates on immigration news and policies. We're committed to bringing you accurate, clear, fact-based information that cuts through the noise and helps you understand what's really happening. Give this video a like if it helped clear up some confusion for you, and please share it with friends, family members, or anyone in your community who might be worried about these headlines. And drop a comment below. Let me know what topics you'd like us to cover next, what questions you have, or what's causing concern in your community. We read every comment, and your input helps us create content that addresses what you actually need to know. Stay informed, stay safe, and remember that accurate information is your best protection in uncertain times. We'll see you in the next video.